The year is 1805. You are standing on a gun deck that stinks of gunpowder, tar, and unwashed men. The ship is moving at 8 knots, and everything around you is groaning. The wood, the ropes, the men. You didn't choose to be here. You woke up in a Portsmouth alley 3 weeks ago and someone hit you over the head. When your eyes opened, you were already at sea. This is the British Royal Navy, the most powerful fighting force on the ocean, the institution that stopped Napoleon, the machine that built an empire. And right now, you are the lowest part of it. This is your life, every rank. Let's go. Level 1. The pressed man/landsman. You are nobody, less than nobody. You are a landsman, the lowest rating in the Royal Navy, assigned to a man who has never sailed, who knows nothing, and who had no say in being here. Over half the men around you at the Battle of Trafalgar were pressed, taken from the streets, from merchant ships, from taverns. Press gangs operated with parliamentary blessing. They could take any man between 18 and 55 who wasn't an apprentice or a foreign official. The rules were frequently ignored. They were paid by the head, so they weren't selective. You wake up in a 20-inch hammock. That's your allocated space. Not 20 inches of room. 20 inches of canvas suspended between beams, packed among hundreds of other men below decks. The man who slept here before you is on watch. The hammock is still warm. Your day begins at 3:40 in the morning. You scrub the deck. You haul lines. You climb the rigging in all weather. You eat salt beef and ship's biscuit, hard enough to knock a tooth out, and you wash it down with grog, 3 parts water, 1 part rum with lime juice, enough vitamin C to keep scurvy at bay. Barely. Your pay is around £10 a year. A domestic servant on land earns about the same and sleeps in a bed. But here is the first thing nobody tells you. You are already dreaming of prize money. Level 2. Ordinary seaman/able seaman. Months have passed. You know the ropes now. Literally. You've been rated up. Ordinary seaman first, then able seaman if you're skilled enough. The difference between the two isn't just title. It's watch station, it's pay, it's what work you're trusted with. An able seaman can work aloft. He can reef a sail in a storm 60 feet above a heaving deck in the dark. That's the job. That's the skill. If you started young, and many did, some as young as 10 or 12, you didn't come to this through press gangs. You came through charity. The Marine Society funded careers at sea for street boys from London and the major port cities. By 16, those boys were better sailors than most men twice their age. Their bodies had changed. Broad shoulders from hauling, barrel chests from effort, and a rolling gait from years of compensating for the ship's movement that never quite left them even on land. The ship is a world. 600 to 800 men on a first-rate ship of the line, living in a hull of timber and tar, with their own hierarchy, their own economy, their own punishments. And the punishments are real. The Articles of War, 36 rules that govern your life, make a long list of offenses punishable by death: cowardice, desertion, mutiny, striking a superior officer, communicating with the enemy. For lesser offenses, the captain orders flogging. The cat-o'-nine-tails has 9 knotted lashes. They spread-eagle you against a wooden grating, wrists and ankles tied, and they apply it with force to your bare back. Every man on the ship is made to watch. You do not complain. Complaining is an offense, but there is still prize money. Level 3. Petty Officer. You have earned something now, a rating, a position, respect, of a specific kind. Petty officers are the backbone of a Royal Navy warship. Bosun's mates, quartermasters, gunner's mates, carpenter's mates. You supervise the work of the men below you. You know your station and your ship better than the officers above you who were born into their rank. The purser is at this level too, the officer responsible for all food and supplies aboard, and here is where the Royal Navy's strangest open secret lives. The purser received no salary. He was expected to make his money by officially cheating the crew. The practice, openly acknowledged, officially illegal and universally practiced, was to issue rations at 14 ounces to the pound, rather than the contracted 16. The purser kept the difference. The men lost 2 ounces from every pound of food they were owed. One of the central demands of the Spithead Mutiny of 1797, one of the most significant naval mutinies in British history, was simply this: give us our full pound. It was considered a radical demand. This is the level where the Navy's social machinery becomes visible. Above you are commissioned officers who mostly came from the gentry. Below you are the men. You are the layer that makes everything actually function, and everyone knows it, and nobody says it. Level 4, Midshipman. You are not quite an officer, not quite a sailor, something in between that has its own specific misery. Midshipmen were officer candidates, typically boys from respectable but not wealthy families, placed aboard ships through connections of family or friendship as young as 12 or 13. Nelson joined at 12. 2 of Jane Austen's brothers joined at roughly the same age. You sleep in the gunroom. You study navigation, seamanship, and mathematics. You are expected to learn leadership by being given real responsibility while being treated with casual contempt by the lieutenants above you. But here's why you endure it: the prize money. In 1799, 4 British frigates intercepted 2 Spanish ships loaded with Mexican gold and silver. Each midshipman, many of them boys barely in their teens, received £800. A domestic servant earned £10 a year. One lucky capture handed those boys the equivalent of 80 years' wages in a single afternoon. That is the gamble. That is why middle-class families sent their sons to sea at 12 years old. The Navy was the only career in Georgian Britain that could lift a man from obscurity to fortune without requiring him to be born into the right family. Unlike the Army, you couldn't purchase a naval commission. You had to earn it. Jane Austen wrote about this directly. In Persuasion, an aristocrat complains that the Navy raises persons of obscure birth into undue distinction. He means it as a criticism. The midshipmen meant it as a promise. Level 5, Lieutenant. You passed the examination, oral, before a panel of captains. They tested you on navigation, seamanship, and your service record. You needed to produce a certificate of at least 6 years at sea, 2 of them as a midshipman. If you passed, you became a lieutenant. If you failed, you went back and tried again. A lieutenant earns around £100 a year. On a ship of the line, that number is theoretical. You rarely see it paid on time. The Navy is chronically behind on wages. Sailors' families ashore sometimes wait years for pay that should have arrived months ago. But there is prize money. As a lieutenant, you receive a fixed share of every prize the ship takes. It is hierarchical. The captain gets far more than you, but it is real. In the 1799 Spanish treasure interception, each lieutenant walked away with £5,000 in a single action. The life of a lieutenant is also the life of perpetual waiting. Waiting for your captain's favor, waiting for a vacancy above you, waiting for a war that creates enough action to advance. In peacetime, hundreds of lieutenants sit on half pay, still technically in the Navy, drawing a reduced wage, unable to advance, unable to leave. You can spend a decade as a lieutenant waiting for a war to resume. When the war does resume, you are very glad it has. Level 6, Captain. You have your own ship. This is what everything was building toward. A captain of a Royal Navy vessel is, by law, by custom, and by practical reality, an absolute monarch within his wooden kingdom. His word is the law. The articles of war back him completely. He can flog, confine, punish, and in extreme cases destroy the career of any man aboard. He is also the person the prize money system was built to reward most generously. A captain's base pay is around £400 a year depending on the rate of his ship. But a successful frigate captain, frigates were the preferred hunting ships for prizes, fast and independent, could earn many times that figure in prize money every year. A lucky captain with a fast ship and a sharp eye for enemy merchant vessels could retire wealthy within a decade. A very lucky captain could retire wealthy within a single cruise. The 1793 prize rules gave the captain alone 2/8 of every prize, the single largest individual share. Even the 1808 reforms that redistributed more money to lower ranks still left the captain the dominant recipient. But the captain also carries something no one else on the ship carries: total responsibility. If the ship is lost, the captain faces court-martial as a matter of procedure regardless of the circumstances. If the ship runs aground through a navigator's error, the captain is accountable. If a man is flogged unjustly and the matter reaches the Admiralty, the captain answers for it. The isolation of command, the absolute loneliness of being the single point of accountability for 600 men, a ship worth tens of thousands of pounds, and the mission is something midshipmen imagine as power. Captains know it as weight. Level 7, Admiral. You are the flag officer. The fleet is yours. The Admiral of the British Royal Navy in the Age of Sail commanded not just ships but entire theaters of war. Nelson at Trafalgar commanded 27 ships against a combined Franco-Spanish fleet of 33. Despite being outnumbered, his tactical decision to attack in 2 columns, cutting the enemy line and creating chaos, won a decisive victory that permanently ended Napoleon's invasion ambitions. Nelson was shot by a French sniper during the battle and died before he knew he'd won. At the top of the prize money pyramid, the Admiral's position is remarkable. He receives a share of every prize taken by every ship under his command. Ships he didn't see, actions he wasn't part of. The system was designed to give flag officers a financial stake in the performance of every vessel in the fleet. It meant a successful admiral commanding an active station during wartime accumulated prize income on an industrial scale. But the system had a darker truth that sat below all the gold and glory. The Royal Navy was the Navy of Empire, and it was the Navy of Impressment. The same institution that made self-made men of boys from Portsmouth and Plymouth also kidnapped working men from streets and pubs and pressed them into years of involuntary service. At Trafalgar, Britain's greatest naval victory, the battle that secured the nation, more than half the men standing at their guns had not chosen to be there. They fought anyway. They always did. That is the British Royal Navy. Every rank, every truth. The greatest naval force in history, built on prize money and press gangs, on 20-inch hammocks and rotten biscuit, on boys of 12, learning to climb rigging in Atlantic storms, on men who fought for an empire that had taken them by force, and somehow, against everything, won. This is The Living Rank. Subscribe, and we'll see you inside the next one.